to log on. That's our reminder that the meeting is being recorded. It will appear on the Birmingham City Council website at some point over the next few days. That's just our reminder that that's going to happen. So yeah, we'll give it a couple of minutes, but I know there are other people we're expecting to join us. Okay, well, let's make a start, and we'll see how far we get, and people can come in and join us as they arrive. Otherwise, it's one of those things you can sit there staring at the screen, waiting for people who then never turn up. So welcome. If you're with us for the first time tonight, my name's Anne Richardson, and I've been chairing these forum meetings since we began a year ago now. That's quite frightening. There are representatives of a variety of organisations and different parts of the Stockland Green community. You'll also see on your screens by the unusual acronym of QBK, Councillor Penny Holbrook. Ah, there she is.
Hello.
We also have our local MP, Jack Dromey. Good evening, Jack.
Good evening.
And various people who you will get to meet and hear from during the course of the evening, presenting on the different items. It's quite easy to manage right now because I can see all of you on my screen. So for now, if during the course of the meeting you would like to say something, either use your reactions button, or you can probably get away with just waving furiously at me, and we will be able to pick up your questions. Obviously, you can also post things in the chat if that's easier. If we get to the stage where there are more of us, we might need to start asking you to use your reactions buttons so that we can make sure we don't miss anything that anyone's got to say. As I said, there's quite a lot on the agenda on different items, some of which are new, some of which are picking up on things we've been talking about in the past. First, though, I'm going to come to an item which is number 3 on the agenda, if you've got that in front of you, which is the Commonwealth Games Celebrating Community Fund. We have, you may remember if you were in our previous meeting, the task, if you like, of receiving and approving the presentations of fund applications to that Commonwealth Games Fund for funding for different community organisations for next year. Ray Goodwin from Spitfire Services is here representing them. They've been commissioned by the council to manage that whole process, and Ray is going to take us through this next bit of our agenda. So Ray, over to you.
Good evening. I think it's probably just very quickly, just by start, just a bit of a refresh. So as Chair has said, Celebrating Communities is all about what it says, celebrating communities within Stockland Green. Each ward in Birmingham has got an allocation of funding to celebrate communities. The decisions come to Ward Forum. For Stockland Green, there is £35,000. There's 2 rounds. We're currently assessing and processing round 1. Round 2 will close on the 30th of November, and then they will be assessed, and the applicants, where they are ready, will come to Ward Forum. All the applicants need to start their delivery by the 31st of March 2022 at the very latest. There are 3 core elements to the Commonwealth Community Fund, which kind of the applicants need to present towards and need to fit around, and there's some core areas. So for the Commonwealth Games Celebrating Community Fund, the 3 core areas are getting active, ready, steady, fun, and celebrating culture. All applicants also need to fit into the ward plan, and that's very, very clear in the guidance. When applicants submit their applications to Birmingham City Council, they are internally assessed. Once they've been assessed and they're ready to come to ward forum, they come to me, and I coordinate with Councillor Holbrook and the chair in relation to that, and we have a slot on the ward forum for the applicants to present. This evening there are two applicants who I'm going to shortly introduce, which I would like to present. One's from Friends of Brookvale Park and colleagues from Sikh, Nari, Manch. They will both present their applications and what they're seeking to achieve. There will be then time for questions, and at that point I will ask both Satpal and Dave respectively to leave the meeting for a voting process. The voting process has to be either 6 people or 51% of the meeting who come and live in the ward. So you must live in the ward to be able to vote. Can I ask, apart from Dave and Satpal, is there anybody connected to either of the organisations in the meeting? Because whilst you can sit on the presentations, you can't take part in the voting because you've got a conflict of interest. So if somebody could indicate at this point whether they've got a conflict of interest, if you would please let me know. Okay, good. So let me pause. Does anybody have any questions at this point before I hand over to either of the applicants that I can answer?
I have a question actually, Ray, looking around the room. What happens if there aren't 6 of us who live in the ward?
So if there's not 6 people, I believe what has happened in previous meetings, that has then gone back to Neighbourhood Development Support Unit to adjudicate on what happens next. So that is what will happen. If people join after the presentation, they won't be able to vote either. So it's anybody who lives in the ward of Stockland Green that can vote.
Should we have a little show of hands as to how many of us live in the ward of Stockland Green?
1, 2.
Jack lives here as well.
Jack does live in Stockland Green. That's very true. 3 and 4, 5. We have 6 show of hands.
Aye. Yes, we do. Exactly.
We do. Excellent.
So as long as we're all in agreement, we're fine.
Right. Can I just ask about the vested interest? I work with both groups as the councillor, but I'm not formally a part of either group.
That is absolutely fine then.
Okay,
so if you're a board member or you are a paid employee or a volunteer in the sense of you do something hands-on with them groups, that's all that matters.
No, thank you.
Cool. We have 6 people who can vote, which is good. So if there's no more questions, E4, did you have a hand up?
No, it's fine now.
Okay, good.
Sorry,
so,
I just have a quick question. I'd quite like to be allowed back into the meeting after the voting has taken place, if that's okay.
If you'd like, yes, you can be.
I mean, interested in the other events.
No, you can actually put into the waiting room.
Okay.
And
yeah.
And Leslie will let you back in afterwards.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, cool. So, moving on. So, firstly, Dave Bassett from Friends of Brookvale Park, if you'd like to present your application and some detail about what you're going to be doing and the impact and how it meets the criteria, that'd be great. So
okay, sure. Yeah, thank you very much. So, yeah, my name's Dave Bassett. I'm a trustee of the Friends of Brookvale Park. And if I can share my screen, hopefully, can have a short presentation for you today. Oh, started at the back, sorry. A quick preview. Okay, can you all see that okay?
I can. Just say you have 5 minutes as well.
Okay, yeah, just 5 minutes, thank you. So our bid is named the Brookvale Games for the Celebrating Communities bid. We aim to create exactly that, some mini Commonwealth Games in Brookvale Park, which, as I'm sure you're all aware, is the kind of jewel in the crown of Stockland Green, I believe. It's a local beauty spot and a focal point for the community. It's a great location for an event such as this, as there's a paved circuit of 1 mile going around the lake perimeter, which allows for races and events to take place. It's highly accessible by foot or by car, and as I said, right in the heart of the community. Our main aims of this award is to really bring the community together in celebration of the Commonwealth Games. We'll do this by organising 12 games organised daily over the 12 days of the Commonwealth Games. Most of them will involve some sort of physical activity, but the range that we have will be accessible for a wide variety of people of all ages. Really, aside from celebration, this will give us the opportunity to build upon relationships with local interest groups and with sports teams, and in some instances, establish these as well. So the 12 activities we have planned over the 12 days include, firstly, just an opening ceremony, parade around the lake for the various groups involved all coming together. A tennis tournament using the tennis courts that are there at the side of the lake. This is in collaboration with the Erdington Tennis Club. Cycling event around the lake. This will be organised in collaboration with the Active Wellbeing Society. A boxing tournament with Tyburn Boxing Club. An egg and spoon race around the lake. And this is part of a Guinness World Record attempt, which is a separate application through this Connecting Communities Fund. Fancy dress fun run, organised by ourselves. Rugby sevens in collaboration with the Erdington Rugby Club. Walking and running races, again with the Active Wellbeing Society. Special Olympic challenges with the Special Olympics Club, who have already held events in the park before. A tug of war event, and hopefully some water sports as well, in collaboration with local sailing club and Enterprise Sailing, who wish to develop sailing in the long term on the lake as well. And then finish it off with a closing ceremony and hopefully some street party and food from local diverse members of community. So as a focal point for the events, we wish to create a Brookvale Games Village, probably on the large tarmac car park that we have next to the tennis courts, to act as a focal point for these activities and also the award ceremonies. So although there will be a competitive nature, we want to celebrate the success in those as well. So there'll be gifts of medals and flowers for a lasting memory of the games as well for those taking part. Here, for the opening ceremonies and hopefully throughout the 12 days as well, provide stands for partner sports organisations and local interest groups to engage with the community and people attending the events. We hope as well, permission pending to have televised screening of the Commonwealth Games, so there's ongoing accessibility, and I think it'd be a good to maintain that focal point within the game, within the park itself as well. So thinking beyond those 12 days event, what does this mean for our community? What kind of legacy and success are we hoping to achieve here? Well, as I say, we'll bring local people together. We hope it can be accessible to all ages, ethnicities and cultures. And in doing so, this will promote social cohesion, develop mutual interest and trust, which unfortunately are somewhat lacking, I believe, in Stockland Green. Hopefully this will mean that people will be more supportive of each other and Stockland Green as a whole, and they'll generally feel better about where they live and about themselves and their well-being. We hope through these events we can develop local community groups and promoting their interest in the area. Potentially, we'd like to establish this as an ongoing event. Funding is always a difficulty in this, but once the ball's rolling, hopefully people will get involved and it'll be easier and cheaper to run these events in the future. Hopefully this will spark development of other community groups and opportunities for engagement of these groups with the park facilities as well, which is sadly lacking. So developing an interest in using the park and developing the idea that we're open. Sorry, I'm slightly over time there, but if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
There is one quite key question, Dave, which is how much money are you looking for and what are you going to spend it on?
Ah, yes. So the budget is £10,000. So we've budgeted £400 per event to support the costs involved with running those, and including the various prizes we wish to give out. We have budgeted for fencing and barriers to the sum of £1,200. Equipment to facilitate, including some of the events of £1,500, and capacity building for formation of community groups. So those ones that will need some impetus of £2,000 as well. So.
What about things like insurance?
This is, we are covered through the Open Spaces Forum, I believe, for these types of events. We've not written that in the budget.
That might be something worth investigating.
Okay.
Given that it's a one-off and unusual event.
Okay.
Are there any more questions for Dave?
Can you talk a bit more about the capacity building, Dave? What's that £2,000 for?
Yes, so we would offer that as small grants to community groups who want to come together and deliver an event. So it's to get them off the ground, really.
An event as part of this event?
In a way, yeah. I mean, we see this as a way of establishing some different interest groups around the park. Particularly, for example, there is an interest in reviving the sailing club, for example, and to see that event as having some significant overhead to that. So, establishing groups such as that will need some kind of impetus, I think.
Do you actually have any in your budget, in that budget, for advertising? Because obviously you can plan all the events you want, but if people don't know about it.
Yeah, that's true. We don't. We were hoping to do that fairly modestly. We have a strong following on our social media, which is free. And I think that we could cover that as from our funds in the Friends of Brookvale Park for things like poster printing, leaflet drops and things like that, which would probably be fairly modest on the £200–300, I imagine. I mean, there's a question to Ray as well. I mean, this is a coordinated event through the City Council as well. Would we have to pay for advertising through your websites and social media channels and those sorts of things?
I will go back and ask that question to my colleagues within the City Council, that if you wish to advertise for them, would there be a cost? I don't have the answer to that because I work for Spitfire Services, and I will undertake to get the answer to that question as well.
Okay.
What's your target in terms of the number of people you'd like to see come through this event?
I think around at least 500-600 per event would be fantastic, I think.
Thank you.
One other question then, if you're looking at that sort of numbers,
Mhm.
and you're saying, oh, it's easily accessible by car, but if you're planning on using the car park, where are you expecting people who are coming? As somebody who already battles with people parking at the mosque,
Mhm.
if
I'm
people are gonna
hoping that
start
it'll be
parking on our
quite,
roads,
yeah,
because parking is an issue.
okay. Yeah, I mean, the main park approach road has quite a lot of parking along there. We could approach the
Not for
Greek
not for
church.
that number of people, it doesn't.
This is very much for a local community as well. I imagine a lot would
I
attend.
think you'd find a lot of them would want to drive anyway, judging by the number of people who drive their kids to school from around the corner.
Okay. Yeah.
You may need to
We have
think
to
about
rethink that.
because certainly, I mean,
Yeah.
if you try and park on my road on a Friday, it's a complete nightmare, or a
So,
Saturday or a Sunday
yeah,
with mosque events, and
yeah,
it creates quite a lot of bad feeling.
Okay, we had considered using the grassy area on the bowling green.
Okay.
This was considered to be not as suitable as the tarmac area, really, in case of bad weather, because it's soft ground. So that's why we opted for that that option. But yeah, no, that's a very valid point.
Cool. Are there any other questions? And if there aren't, we will move on to Satpal to do his presentation.
Is that a question Jack's got?
Just very quickly, impressive presentation. Two things. First of all, I'd be very happy to help promote the various channels that we have, not just my own channels, but many others that we work with in terms of community organizations locally. And also, of course, Erdington Local, I am sure, would absolutely be a champion, Dave, of what you're doing. Secondly, just apropos of nothing, I remember Penny on this call and myself when we launched the Canoeing Club together with Sergeant Simon Hensley back some years ago. And it's very welcome, the proposal that we should once again bring the lake back into use, including for aqua events. It was an impressive presentation.
I still have that photo of you and me in a canoe, Jack. I'll sell it to the highest bidder.
Maybe you'll be able to recreate it.
Thank you. Is there any final questions? I'd like to move on to Satpal's presentation. No. Thank you, Dave. If you just want to wait there for a moment. Satpal, if you would like to do your presentation next, and then we will take questions.
Yes, thank you, Ray. Thank you to everyone for giving me this opportunity to present this application. I really do appreciate your time and your energy for this. And it's nice to see some familiar faces on the screen there, Penny and Jack. It's nice to see you again. So my name's Satpal, and I'm the manager of the Northside Welcome Centre. The centre is on Streetley Road, B23. It's right on the border of Erdington and Stockland Green. It's a very beautiful, diverse centre, and like I said, we've had the privilege of having Jack Drami come to visit us, and we've still got your picture on the wall, Jack, of your visit. So the strand we've chosen is celebrating diversity. We do a range of things at the Northside Welcome Centre, and like I said, I've been there since the beginning, from the 15 years. But the best thing that we really do is bringing cultures together, and really is the heart and soul of our organisation and the centre. We just attract wonderful, diverse people to the centre, and we make them feel very welcome. And as you know, the Commonwealth countries, is over 50 countries, about 54 countries of rich and poor, all over the world, Asia, America, Europe. And we get all that kind of diversity, people come to the centre, and it's like a little Commonwealth place where our centre is. And so celebrating culture is just going to come natural to us. And what we propose to do with this funding is we're looking to have 8 sessions, 1 session per week, where we're going to invite people from the local community to celebrate culture, to celebrate the Commonwealth. We're going to do that by talking about different variety of foods that different cultures have, how we dress, for instance, I wear a turban and how I dress. We're going to talk about food, dress, just general behaviour, how we are different, but yet so similar as well. And we really love to celebrate the similarity that we all have. So we're going to have 8 sessions of 2-hour sessions per week. And then we're going to have 4 sessions. We're going to have an activity where we're going to make flags out of like buntings. So we're going to make people aware of the countries, where the map of the world is, where the Commonwealth countries are. And we're going to make buntings which you can hang in the centre. So it's going to be like a nice buzz in the centre. Also, we're confident that we can actually have a buzz in the area as well, the B23, to get the celebrating cultures, and not a lot of people know about the Commonwealth and the beauty about the Commonwealth. So we're going to celebrate that, and then we're looking to hire a local venue at the end of the weekly sessions that we do, where we can get 4 separate guest speakers to celebrate and talk about the culture. And we're going to have some food, variety of different foods from different cultures. And I just think it's a beautiful way to celebrate the Commonwealth, and what a fantastic opportunity to do that while we've got the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, which is absolutely wonderful. And of course, every one of you will be invited to come down. You can share your knowledge and understanding and celebrate culture with us. But that's what it is in a nutshell.
Thank you. Are there any questions from colleagues on the online?
If I start with the same question, what's the funding that you're looking for, Satpal, and what are you going to spend it on?
Okay, thank you, Anne, for asking the question. The total funding we're really looking for is 4,300, and the way, because where we are, it's right on the border of Stockland Green and Erdington. What we're really proposing is we asking half the money from Stockland Green, half from Erdington, and the money's going to go towards, obviously, towards the time it's going to take to build up this project. And then it's going to be a 12-week weekly sessions. So we're going to be using a heating, lighting, electric. We're going to have some money for promotions. We're going to have some money towards the speakers, and then obviously the venue hire as well. So yeah, and we're going to obviously make people welcome. And also we're going to have the bunting stuff that we're going to put together. So it's for the equipment, for promotion, for paying for the facilitators, and the hire of and the use of the venues.
Councillor Holbrook, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to check with Satpal. I don't imagine this will be the case, but if for some reason Erdington don't agree half the funding, would you still be able to deliver something meaningful around the Commonwealth?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that, Penny. Absolutely, yeah. We will definitely probably have to skim the session, maybe instead of having 8 sessions, we maybe have 5 sessions. But 100% sure we will still have a buzz in the centre, and we will have some creativity and buzz going on in the area. So yeah, we definitely will be able to deliver a portion of the project, enough to make a difference in the community.
And how many of the 54 Commonwealth nations, I just Googled that, do you think you can represent in these?
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so obviously it's a very diverse centre. Honestly, although the organisation is called Sikh, Nari, Manch, but it's only about, we do our statistics, it's only about 15-20% are Sikhs. We get people from Europe, we get people from Eastern European countries, we have Polish people there. The centre's up and running again just since the lockdown from last week. We've already got a variety of people turning up. Yeah, we get obviously the English, African. We get a really good range, and we really do. And like I said, it's nice that Jack and Penny have been to the centre. We just naturally attract the people from different diverse countries.
Thank you. Do colleagues have any more questions for Satpal about his application? I take quiet as no. So, Dave and Satpal, thank you for coming. And we will ask you to leave at this moment in time. if you'd like to come back into the meeting, please wait in the waiting room, although I'm aware, Sapo, you have a yoga session.
I have. I've got my
That's all right.
waiting from on the right
Well,
here.
I hope that goes very well.
Yeah.
What will happen next is I will be writing to both of you after the meeting with the outcome of where we are and what we do next.
Just want to say, yeah, thank you to you again, Ray. You've been very good with your communication and you gave me the options of doing this meeting in the right way. So thank you for your time and your patience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, both.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have they both gone, Leslie? I assume so. So, colleagues, there are two applications, one from Friends of Brookvale Park and one from Northside Welcome Centre, Sikh, Nari, Manch. Could we take Councillor Holbrook, you have your hand up? Is that a legacy hand?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay.
I just wanted to make 2 points really before we move to the voting. Really quite impressed with SatPal's proposal. To my knowledge, we've got 10 different Commonwealth countries represented in Stockland Green, and probably more I don't know about. And I like the idea of bringing all those Commonwealth countries together. So with a bit of support, we could probably widen that. The only other point I wanted to make is I'm comfortable with Brookvale's proposal. The only thing I'm not comfortable with is them having £2,000 to redistribute to community groups. If that's the case, that would be the job of the ward forum, or potentially we could direct those groups directly, we could send those groups directly to apply for funding. I'm just not comfortable with the £2,000 that they get to redirect to community groups. The rest of it, I didn't have a problem with. Those were the only points I wanted to make.
I could offer some advice at this point, and it's entirely up to the ward forum how you decide to vote. But if the ward forum wasn't comfortable with any part of the application or the costings, we could award a part of the application. So in the case of Friends of Brookvale Park, if that was £8,000 instead of the 10, that would be perfectly acceptable as well. I'm going to just ask Carla. I'm right in saying that, aren't I, Carla? That if the forum decide they would like to offer £8,000 because they didn't want to offer the full 10 because the £2,000 they wanted to give a small grant should be going through the ward forum, that would be perfectly acceptable.
Yes, that would be absolutely fine. You can discuss how you would like to fund.
Good. Thank
and
you,
also,
Carla.
sorry, I forgot a point I was going to make, totally my fault. I also share the concerns about parking. I would say those numbers for attendance are slightly inflated. The most you're going to get at a community event, and I've been doing them for 20 years, is 200, which would still cause issues, but we can work with them in terms of highways and maybe some sort of park and ride, because we've got the car park in Brookvale. We can possibly use the car park at Anne's Church if she's willing. We've got Highcroft, we've got a variety of things, so we could do that. But if we were minded to support it, I would put that on one of the things that we definitely needed to work on.
Okay.
Sorry.
No. Jack.
You can ask this question. They're both very impressive presentations. Is it possible to find a way through that we support both of them, even if there would have to be an adjustment in relation to the sums of money concerned? If that was possible, I think that would be very welcome.
So just let me kind of reiterate, for Stockland Green, there is an allocation of £35,000.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 rounds. We have come to the end of round 1, and we're now currently in round 2, which will come to an end on the 30th of November. So at this point, there is plenty of money for both applications to be supported. What I'd said to colleagues earlier was perhaps that we would need to look at kind of how we ensure that a kind of more a joined up approach for Stockland Green to ensure that there's a richness of applications coming through that kind of represents Commonwealth in its fullest extent, which is really, really important. So in answer to your question, Jackie, yes, the 2 applications can be supported if the ward forum is minded to do that. So what I would like to do,
very sensible move.
thank you. What I would like to do, based on the kind of feedback and comments I have had, especially in relation to Friends of Brookvale Park, is can I propose that we take it to a vote for the Friends of Brookvale Park if people are in favour of that application, with the taking on board the comments that have been made around the being at £8,000, not 10 because of the small grants programme, and working with them to find suitable parking, so we're not clogging up all the roads around Stockland Green and Brookvale Park and upsetting everybody, which is a really, really good and important point. Could I have anybody that doesn't have a conflict of interest? Can I have a show of hands if you live in Stockland Green for the application? 1, 2. I have 2, 3, 4. I have 4. That's not enough hands. I thought there were 6 people earlier.
There were, I'm sure there were.
There were.
But one of them includes you, Anne.
Yeah, I've got my hands up.
Oh, sorry.
My hands up.
1, 2, 3. I can only see 4 show of hands. 5. I can see 5 now. 1, 2, 3.
Did we miscount earlier?
No. Is anybody not happy with the application that lives in Stockland Green then? Or wishes to abstain from voting? So, I will take, let me take this back to, and this card can kind of give me some advice here. I will take this back to the Neighbourhood Development Support Unit to adjudicate on what they feel is the right course of action. So we did have 6 show of hands earlier, huh?
Yeah, it's my understanding that if the majority of people vote yes, then that would be sufficient.
Right, okay. As long as my colleagues within NDSU are happy with that, are we happy then on the basis of what we've, the show of hands, that we take this application forward with the caveats of it's at £8,000 and the caveat that the ward forum work with Friends of Brookvale on the issues around parking?
That's
Yes.
fine. Is it possible that Dave was one of our hands from earlier?
No, he didn't have his hand up because he had a conflict of interest.
Because we haven't lost anybody else.
We haven't.
No. Everyone else is still here.
Okay, we did count 6 hands most definitely.
Someone had 2 hands up.
Okay.
I know it's not in the criteria, Ray and Anne, but for those, the 3 of us here who are working actively in Stockland Green, and on behalf of Uzma and Ned, we would support this. They clearly fit in with the ward plan, help develop, and with the 3 criteria. So we have a stake in professionally in the ward.
Okay, I will reflect that as well to Neighbourhood Development Support Unit tomorrow morning when I write to them about this. Can I just ask then on the second application, which is Northside Welcome Centre, and they're asking for 50% of the money, which is £2,150. Could I have a show of hands, please, if people are happy with the application? Jackie's 5. Again, 5. I will again take this forward, and with consensus from colleagues at Pioneer, I believe I will take this forward to the Neighbourhood Development Support Unit tomorrow on the basis that we will hopefully support both of these applications. Is that okay for everybody?
Thank you. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your time, and I will write to everybody tomorrow. And if you're okay, I will sit and listen to the rest of the meeting as well.
Brilliant. Great. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Leslie, can we invite Dave to rejoin us from the waiting room, please?
Yeah, all done.
Lovely.
Thank
Thank you. Welcome back, Dave. I hope that wasn't too painful, sitting out there whilst we had that conversation. We're going to move on now from that item on to item 4 on the agenda, which is, I'm guessing Ned going to give us a Safer Street updates from Pioneer Group.
Can I make some introductory remarks?
Of course you can.
And then Ned will do the content. So Ned's going to throw up the presentation, so you can do that as I talk now. Just to be clear, so in the presentation there's reference to the Pioneer Group. We're the community partner selected by the city and the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office. To be clear, that we're working on this not for profit. We're doing this work pro bono through our commitment to Stockland Green. Our specific brief was to recruit and then manage Ned, who's now been in post for about 6 weeks, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ned. And then also to manage the grants program, which Ned will describe, to manage the tasking process, which you'll also describe, and the reference group. And so just wanted to have clarity that our role wasn't about work. We didn't pitch for this work to make a profit. We're doing this because of our commitment, and hopefully some added value that we can bring, and also some of that resource that we bring in was counted as match in the bid to the Home Office. So I'll hand over to Ned to take us through the content.
Evening, everyone. I just checked that everyone can see that's on the screen. Cool. So the Safer Streets project is a Home Office project. Just to give it a little bit of introduction, the idea is to tackle neighbourhood crime through preventative measures, with a particular focus on acquisitive crime. So that is, theft, burglary, that type of thing. But obviously, it does have a wider ranging impact. The funding was secured through a joint bid from the council, the police, and the Crime Commissioner's Office and the Pioneer Group. And this is the second round of Safer Streets funding. So we have got kind of previous projects that we're able to draw on, and many of the project deliverables have been shown to be effective in other areas. And one of the key points to kind of say is that there is a toolkit that came with the bid of various sort of different deliverables that the Home Office suggested that would be good in reducing crime, and so that kind of forms the basis of our bid and therefore the project. So the core area where the Safer Streets project will be taking place is just off Brookvale Park, between sort of Slade Road and George Road, and then Marsh Hill at the top. Now, not all of the deliverables will be happening in all of the areas, but kind of as a rough guide, that's where the work is going to take place. So I'm trying to I will try and be relatively speedy about this process, because I know that people don't want to be listening to me all night. But do tell me if I'm speeding past too fast. So the key project deliverables are street lighting upgrades. We're hoping to do it on sort of about 13, 14 streets in that core area. We have been listening to the local community, and there is also a council program to sort of uplift and replace those lights. So we're trying, at the moment, what we're doing is doing an audit alongside the street lighting team. So we make sure that the money that we're spending isn't being spent just to replace things that the council's already going to go and do in the near future, and that the money is there to enhance the street lighting offer so that we're creating kind of brighter streets. We've got 6 redeployable CCTV cameras. I did a quick walkabout with the local police yesterday, and we've been kind of doing a site visit to just check where we're going to put them. We've been looking at the data, the crime data and the intelligence reports, but we're just also making sure that actually where we think will be a good place, there is line of sight and that kind of thing to make sure we can cover it. Just to put that into into context for people, the Birmingham Community Safety Partnership currently has 11 redeployable cameras across the entire city, and we're bringing 6 to that core area for the 12 months. After that 12 months, they will be kind of continue to be utilised within Stockland Green as long as there is a need for them. and then they can kind of go outside of that core area, but they will, you know, eventually be kind of sucked into Birmingham wider for kind of different areas. But as long as there is a core, as long as there is a need and a provision that can be shown in Stockland Green, then there will be, those cameras will be available. We're also looking at doing some service road alleyway improvements, kind of building on the work of people like the Stockland Green Action Group have already done some fantastic work in clearing those alleyways and gating them in some of the core area, but there is still more to be done. So we've got a small budget there, and we're hoping to kind of work very closely with the local community to kind of you know, see how that provision can go forward. We've got some budget for pruning foliage, which will help to kind of, you know, increase the visibility of lights, help for the CCTV, and also just generally it will help increase kind of the visibility of lines of sight for people, which helps people feel a bit safer, but also kind of make the area look a little bit nicer. We've got a very small budget for new signage. And you know, we're going to work again with the local community to decide exactly how we spend that and what that looks like. That's going to be a bit more consultation needed around there, and that stream hasn't kind of got up and running yet. And then we have one of the big ticket items is the home visits, which will be crime prevention packs and security upgrades. So we're trying to offer to at least 650 properties in that core area a visit from the local police and the West Midlands Fire Service, and we will do some you know, some crime prevention packs, which will have things like door alarms and window alarms. Will help set them up in people's properties so that they know how to use them. And the fire service will also be doing some kind of fire safety checks and advice. And then with hopes to follow that up with free lock upgrades for those properties. So it's a free lock upgrade to anti-snap locks, which is kind of one of the most effective ways of dealing with burglary, or preventing burglary is probably a better way of saying that. And then we've also got a commitment from Birmingham City Council to help us with sort of street cleanups and to kind of help clean up the area in general. And then we've got a budget for community engagement initiatives, and I'll come on to that very shortly. So we've got a budget of £26,198 is to be spent between now and the end of July 2022, and it will be administered and agreed upon by our project steering group. And just for reference, our project steering group includes local partners, local community organisations and local members of the community, and it has got a community majority on there. So the priorities that have been agreed upon by the steering group for where that funding can be spent is for clearing, lighting and securing the alleyways and gullies, and litter picking and fly tipping clearance in and around that core area, building volunteer capacity, supporting growth of community groups, stakeholder engagement, growing the network of engaged residents, creating a long-term strategy for community development, well-being of residents, providing enrichment for all age groups, and community-led interventions for the reduction of crime. We're not, you know, those are the kind of things. It doesn't have, obviously don't have to pay, the projects don't have to hit all of those priorities. You know, we're just looking for them to kind of hit at least one of them. Got ahead of myself. And what we're going to be doing is there will be a small application process. It will be a very small form, and I will be quite happy to sit and work with people on that. But what we're looking for is people from the local community to come forward with ideas for projects, and you know, if they come to us and say we need a bit of money to do this, here's the idea, then we can help support them to apply for that funding and give a little bit of money from the steering group, and then also help support that project going forward. So if anybody is interested, they can contact me at saferstreets@pioneergroup.org.uk. We'll also be feeding this in through the tasking process. So I'll just quickly touch on to that. So we've created a sort of community tasking process, which we have started running, and what we're doing is on a 4-weekly cycle doing this sort of idea where we've got community conversation, which is kind of very informal chat. People can come in pop into the Highcroft Community Centre for a cup of tea and some biscuits and a chat about kind of various issues. We've got some of the councillors have attended. So Penny was there yesterday when we had our last one. And then we're hoping to follow that up the next week with a sort of a walkabout in the area, where we can kind of look at further diagnosis of various issues that have been raised, and kind of get a little bit more insight into those, and then bring that back the following week for a community tasking event where we can look at what community-led interventions we can do to actually deal with some of those problems, and we can look at directing some of those projects through the community engagement budget, so that we can then access some of that money to kind of help support those. And then finally topping it off with a sort of a professionals tasking where we can then hold kind of council officers and stuff to account on some of these issues that can't be dealt with through local community interventions, but will need kind of the actual assistance of the proper community, of the proper council, and other various other partners that can be involved. And then finally, to try and channel some more people through the ward forum to come here for kind of issues that sit beyond our scope. We have got a very limited remit. We can't do everything, and as much as we want to help, we do need to try and kind of encourage people to join this group and to talk through here. So just so that, because the area that we're doing tasking in is slightly different, it is a bit extended. So we have brought in a little bit of Gravelly Hill, and the reason behind that is because this sort of area is very heavily affected by by kind of similar levels of issues. So we're kind of grouping them together, but a lot of the the budgets, the community engagement stuff, and a lot of the core or the key deliverables still have to take place within the core area, but we're kind of hoping that we can sort of do some other work and help with kind of getting the council and other officers and other partners involved in kind of that wider area. So that's the work that we're doing at the moment, and the walkabout will hopefully be not this Saturday, but the Saturday afterwards, and I will be sending some information out about that. I just need to check my diary so that I know that I'm not double booking myself, but hopefully we can Saturday morning, if people want to join us, we're going to be having a wander around and looking at some issues. So
excellent.
Great. Thanks, Ned. Anyone got any questions for Ned on the Safer Streets work? Jack and then Debbie.
Thank you, Anne. I mean, first of all, thank Aoife and you, Ned, for the outstanding work that is being done. It's an excellent initiative, and it's greatly to the credit of those who have driven it. Just to add, if I can, an update from the local police service this morning in terms of the position in Stockland Green. There's some encouraging stats, but they're still working those through in terms of some areas of crime falling. But what they said in essence was four things. I mean, first of all, as we all know, they've mounted a huge effort, and in their words, there's been a significant number of arrests as a result of the extra resource that was put in. Secondly, they've mounted big on the roads initiatives, including, for example, in the Wheelwright Road area. Thirdly, on the impact team, and I'd like to pay tribute to the work of the impact team. I mean, I was out with them, Jason and Wayne. There's 4 warrants that they've served, 3 of which have seen significant actions and arrests as a consequence, and that is being followed through at the next stages, including some quite disturbing evidence of machetes and knives, as well as drugs. And a fourth and final thing in terms of the schools, Erdington Academy and Greenwood have both seen significant operations mounted. The reason I mention all of that is the Safer Streets initiative is, I stress again, absolutely first class. And then it's in the round, the other key players, I mean, the police, obviously the local authority, the mental health services. But just a final point is that, and then an apology, if you don't mind, is the important thing is that what there is, I mean, for all, in all honesty, we've got some way to go yet. And I don't think anyone believes that we have resolved the deep-seated problems that have given rise to this initiative. It is very welcome that the key players are collaborating together to do what they've done. And I come back again to thank Aoife and yourself, Ned, for it's quite outstanding. Now, Ned, by the way, Saturday week, get the invite to me. I shall be there. The apology is, unfortunately, I've got a call which is coming through in about 3 minutes' time in relation to the battle to save the GKN factory from closure. It's reaching a crunch stage, and I've got to take this call. So I'll be okay for about the next sort of 3 minutes or so.
The next 3 minutes are yours, Jack. Go for it.
Just to give my apologies for why I have to leave.
Thank you. We will appreciate having you while we've got you. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Debbie.
Ned, you mentioned the community conversations. Where and when are they happening?
So we had originally booked out the Highcroft Community Centre from 2:30 till 5 o'clock on every Tuesday afternoon. However, after the first one, a lot of the local residents were a little disappointed about the timing because it doesn't really work for lots of people. So what we're trying to do is change that, and so that's why one of the reasons why the walkabout would be taking place on the weekend. I'm looking to do an evening session, but I'm just trying to get some availability from Highcroft because you know we'd quite like to use it as the centre to do that. I'm just trying to work out when I can, and as soon as I've got an availability. But I'm thinking sort of. Problem is working out a time that's still going to suit people. So I'd like to keep them kind of a little bit fluid, but looking at sort of maybe 5 till 7 on a weeknight evening, so that other people can attend, and then doing something on the weekend and doing something else during the day, so that we can kind of try and hit as many different people as possible.
If you are looking for a venue, All Saints Church, which is just off off George Road, I can make available for you more or less whenever you want it.
Fabulous.
But apart from weekends.
Yeah,
That'd
not
be
Sunday
okay,
morning,
wouldn't it, Anne?
That'd be absolutely fine. I mean, apart from the fact that you're the one with the keys, you
Yeah, I am the one with the
world,
keys.
Debbie.
Of course, I'm the one with the keys. But that might, I mean, I know it's the other end, but it might be an interesting.
Certainly.
Penny.
Just to say that actually would be really helpful, because we like to think we're one community, and mostly we are, but people still don't like travelling that far. So actually, if we can do a couple of events at the other end of Slade Road, that would be really, really helpful. It would be. So thank you for that, Debbie. That's really helpful. I've not been there for a couple of years. I'll have to.
You're welcome anytime. And also, Ned, if you get me contact details, I can get them into Slade School.
Fantastic.
Which actually could go out to the parents, so that to increase and probably Brookvale as well, and possibly Stockland Green, because they're all linked, and that would actually give you a network of parents coming as well.
That would be spectacular. Can I ask Anne?
Debbie, shall I send Ned your contact details?
Brilliant.
Feel free.
And then I will drop you an email very shortly. Well,
I'm just thinking,
tomorrow.
I am sure the heads of those 3 schools will do anything they want to improve the area. They're very proactive.
Fantastic. It'd be really good to have a bit of a chat about that. And I'd be very interested in, in using it as a venue if we can't get the availability at Highcroft. It would also potentially be good to, sort things around. So we'll have a look at that.
I love giving all my evenings up to meetings.
I'm saying nothing.
Nope. Don't.
Yeah, just a quick question. It's fantastic, all of the activities you have planned with the community. I have a specific question about the CCTV, which is a redeployable system, I believe you mentioned. Are you using this based on any evidence that it is impactful in reducing crime, both in the short term and the long term? I suppose my concern is once it's, gone, crime would return. So could you just comment on that?
So yeah, so the reason why it's part of the toolkit that the Home Office kind of suggests as one of the measures that they do. There is I can't off the top of my head give you the exact percentage, but it is proven to help reduce crime in those areas. There is a risk that that it displaces crime, as opposed to it doesn't necessarily prevent it. And so, we are working with the police to try and see how we can manage that. And that's part of the reason why the tasking area is kind of wider than the core area, is so that we can monitor the displacement of that crime, and then kind of hopefully, if it happens, and then hopefully kind of create measures with the local police to try and tackle that. So that's, I mean, it is a risk with that, and it's something that we are mindful of, but we are hoping that it will have an impact on certain things. And one of the things that we're using it for, and one of the intelligence things, is to give kind of more, give us more intelligence and more stuff on drug dealing and things like that, so that we can kind of help feed that into the police intelligence system, and then they can kind of do more warrants and such like that.
The only, if I may be so bold, sorry, Anne, the only thing I'd add to that is we really do need to be clear that it has to be intelligence led, which is a mix of intelligence between residents and the police, because I've already had 49 emails asking for a camera outside their house. And obviously that's not possible. So we need to be really clear on the reasons why we're doing it and why we've placed them somewhere. And if that problem resolves itself, we will of course look to move it on. But I just think we need to be really clear about the fact that we've got 6. It's not 47. We've just got to be really sensible about where we place them, and that police intelligence is key to that.
So just to follow on, we are following the guidelines that are set out by the council, and it's the sort of surveillance commissioners forms. So we are completing those to show that there's a kind of a need, that there's a rationale behind it, and with the redeployability, we expect to put them in for several months and see what impact they have. If they're having a good impact, but other areas are problematic, then we can look to move them, or we can kind of review that based on what the data is and what we think is best. So that hopefully, some will be able to do some good in the area, and because the core area isn't like a huge area, 6 cameras in there, we can cover quite a lot, but there will be a small consultation session before each camera. So what we'll be doing is writing out to anybody who'll be within kind of 100 meters of where the cameras are, so that they then get to have a say on whether they are happy with that positioning, because obviously it's quite an imposition for some residents. Some people are going to be very happy about it, and some people are going to be less so. So we need to kind of work with residents to make sure that we're putting them in the right places and that we ameliorate those concerns.
Great, thanks. Any more questions for Ned before we move on to a topic that I think is also Ned? So moving then from safer streets to the neighbourhood plan. Aoife, have you got anything you wanted to say on this, or?
Just two things very quickly. That the neighbourhood plan, obviously we agreed in principle to explore this and to take it forward through consultation. It is part of the legacy arrangement going beyond safer streets, which is more time limited, and we need to see the context there, get the deliverables from safer streets, but start working on the medium long-term agenda through the neighbourhood plan. But we need to consult on that, and Ned will take us through that.
So just, it's a very brief update in terms of the neighbourhood plan, just to, it has been brought through to the ward forum before, but just in case people aren't fully aware, the neighbourhood plan is a statutory mechanism through the Localism Act, which allows local neighbourhoods to create a vision for how they want to see their area developed. And it will then sit alongside the local development plan. And when planning officers are making decisions on things, they will consult both the local development plan and the neighbourhood plan. There is kind of a strict process that we have to follow, because it is a statutory mechanism. We have to create a neighbourhood forum, and we have to get 21 members to sign up to that. And then we have to create a neighbourhood plan, which will take a long time. It's evidence based. It's going to be much longer than the length of safer streets. And then once that has once a neighbourhood plan is kind of agreed upon by that forum, in consultation with local residents, it then goes out to a referendum to the forum, to the ward or the area that is chosen for that neighbourhood plan. So we're hoping to do some consultations relatively soon. We're hoping to do a little bit of a tour of Stockland Green. We you know, we don't foresee the neighbourhood forum taking place properly until kind of the beginning of next financial year, so sort of April time, but March, April, kind of around there. But there is some groundwork to do first, so we would quite like to get ahead of that and start getting people's interest, start talking to people about it. We have spoken to some kind of venues around about kind of potentially using their spots for some consultation work. The first thing we have to do is decide on an area that wants to, you know, that we've got 3 or 4 different proposals of the area that should be covered, ranging from kind of ranging from the entire ward to kind of smaller areas within it. I suspect that this is something that, having spoken to a few people across the ward, I suspect this is something that the ward's going to be very interested in doing for the whole of Stockland Green. But we will have to, you know, we'll have to see what people think. We are looking for currently sort of community champions that can sit on that neighbourhood forum, people that come from different areas across Stockland Green and that are representing different communities. I've started collating a sort of a register of interest. There's quite a few people that have already kind of popped their name across as people who'd be interested in sitting on that neighbourhood forum. So it's a kind of a watch this space at the moment. Me and Uzma have been working on our kind of consultation materials, and we're hoping to start really organising and arranging that very, very shortly, so that we can get some consultations done before too long. The original plan was by the end of the month. We will see, because obviously Safer Streets does have to take priority for me. That is my main project, and so I have to, you know, we've got to make sure that those deliverables are getting done. But hopefully, with it before not too long, we should be asking people to come along on board. If you want more information, or you know people that might be you know, interested in that kind of thing, please do point them in my direction. I'm very happy to have a proper conversation with people outside of ward forums and such, so that you know, that I can give kind of more information. It is a detailed process. There is quite a lot to go through, and it's probably a bit it's a bit wordy for this forum, I think.
Sorry, just a brief question regarding that. If I understand correctly, this can be a useful vehicle to influence planning decisions in particular. And as you're no doubt aware, you know, an incendiary issue across Stockland Green is the proliferation of HMOs and exempt housing and that sort of thing, which I think a lot of residents feel quite strongly about. So would this be the best way to go in stopping that proliferation and influencing those sorts of planning permission?
One of the reasons why we thought of, you know, looking into this was what was the potential there. There are other local authorities who have used their local plans in this way. I think it's an authority, I think Plymouth or around there, they've used a local plan in connection with Article 4. It wouldn't be a universal panacea that will change the face of the, you know, the exempt provision picture, but it will begin to bring a measure of control locally. So it is one ingredient, but I think we need to be careful around saying it, you know, it will be this sole vehicle for addressing this, but it will be useful as well as for shaping other development, whether that's housing, leisure and recreation, etc.
Unless anyone else has any more questions on the neighbourhood plan, that might be a nice segue into point 6 on the agenda, which is an update on the Scrutiny Enquiry report on exempt accommodation, which I think Penny is going to give us.
Yeah, apologies for my camera. I don't have very many lights in my house. Apparently my energy went up 26% today, but that's a different story. Just to say, we have concluded the inquiry. We've taken evidence of 4 different residents groups in Stockland Green, Stockland Green Action Group, South Road, George Road and Hillary's Road. The committee is now considering what recommendations it wants to put forward. I can't speak on behalf of the whole committee because I'm not the chairperson, but I do sit on it. There are two main things we're pushing for. One is that we continue to fund the Exempt team, which is the council team that have come together. So it's police, planning, housing officers that will continue to deal with the exempt property issues. And then the second thing is that we continue to explore what other planning options are available to us. And then actually there's a third thing, which is we continue to lobby government, which we've already started conversations on, which is about giving local authorities the power to license exempt properties. The only other thing to probably update is that 3 providers have had their licenses removed, all of whom operate in Stockland Green. So we're currently doing 2 streams of work. One is to make sure they don't get taken over by another exempt provider. And the second one is to make sure what happens to those residents, because at the end of the day, there are still people living in those properties and I don't want them to be homeless. So we're doing those 2 streams of work consistently, but I'm happy to take any questions that you want.
Questions for Penny? That might be the first time we've ever not had a question about HMOs and exempt housing. I think we should invite the new housing minister to come for a walk around Stockland Green. I'm sure Michael Gove would be very, very comfortable and at home here.
Well, he was in Stockland Green once upon a time. I bumped into him in Dallas Road during an election.
Yeah, it's not election this year.
Well, no. But yeah.
In some respects, I'm not joking. We should invite him to come and...
Well, I've already had a conversation with Jack about that, actually, which is come and see what it's really about. But I think what Michael Gove has done is, and this is not a political statement, it's just a factual statement. I think he's passed it on to his junior minister, which is a guy called Eddie Hughes, who actually grew up in Great Bar. So he's the guy we've been talking to because he's much more aware of the local area. I think we might want to put a request into Jack to see if Michael Gove wants to come and visit as well. But I wouldn't say I feel comfortable. Comfortable is the wrong word, but I feel some progress has been made. We've now got a number of tools at our availability. We've got the impact team, we've got the exempt team, we've got safer streets. You know, we're using Article 4 for planning where we can. It feels like we're using what levers we have. It's just going to take a while to put the jigsaw together. That's what I would say.
It does feel like we are not necessarily in a different place to where we were last year, but we're on a different trajectory. It feels a little bit more like there might be some more positive light at the end of the tunnel than there was a year ago.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think we've now got some of the tools that we need to solve it. But does it feel any different for the residents? Almost certainly not.
It's easy for me to say that on Bleak Hill Road. I probably wouldn't be saying it if I lived on Francis Road.
Yeah, it almost certainly doesn't. We've probably stopped the growth. We haven't changed the impact it has where we've already got it. That's what I would say.
Great, thanks, Penny. Have we got anybody with us from the Stockland Green Action Group? That's going to be a quick update then. Dave, anything you want to say on Brookvale Park?
No, just I guess a quick update. We're in a bit of a flux at the moment. So I want to hold more of a public meeting soon to encourage new members. So we were thinking of having some sort of event at a weekend in the park itself. As you know, we've been supported, particularly administratively, by KRT, and they've undergone some changes in their management structure as well, which has had a small impact on us as well. But I want to strengthen our core team. So yeah, we'll be putting out some advertisements about that, thinking probably around Guy Fawkes celebrations at the moment, so around the November the 5th. But a get together with maybe some teas and coffees and cakes and stuff. I don't want to get into insurance problems with having a firework display or something like that. So a low-key event. The main purpose is to try and open up a little bit. Certainly think the Friends of Brookvale Park has perhaps been a little bit closed. So I want to open it up for more community engagement. And hopefully, you know, the Commonwealth funding I was talking about earlier will help to extend that as well, if successful. So.
Great, thank you. We've got no one from Slade Road Methodist or Witton Lodge with us this evening either, so they'll be very quick. Any more? Anything that anyone out there would like to say who's not had an opportunity to say their piece yet this evening?
Just to update on Highcroft, Uzma advised she's been working with the team there, Maxine in particular, and it looks like they have up to 7 new potential members of the committee, which is great news.
Wow.
You've done sterling work there, my goodness.
That is great news. I've just got one thing, possibly for the next agenda, but whenever you want to come on to that.
Go for now.
Okay. Every year we get given £20,000 from Highways to do minor adjustments, and we need to make the decision on what it's spent on before Christmas. So I was wondering if that could come to the next meeting, because I like to bring all of this stuff to the forum so that everybody can have a say. What I'll do is I'll get the Highways engineer. It's based on the complaints and inquiries they've had over the last 12 years, but I'll just get them to bring the top 6 recommendations and we can change them, amend them, or decide on them. Would that be okay?
Fab. Can we get that on the next agenda then, please, Leslie? I'm going to take that as a yes. Excellent. In terms of our next meeting, let me ask you this, Ned. When would be the most helpful time point for you for the forum to next meet?
I'm relaxed about it.
December.
Early December?
Early December.
Because if we need to allocate that funding by the end of December, we need to have met before the end of December.
Yeah.
Can I go for first week of December then for preference, purely because December gets busy?
Yeah.
I can't possibly imagine you'd be busy over Christmas, Anne.
Well, do you know, this will be my 3rd Christmas in Birmingham, and it'll be the first Christmas I've worked. And I say that as I thought last year was going to be the first Christmas I worked, and then I got COVID.
We did miss you.
It was horrendous.
No. Whatever works for everybody else is fine by me.
So if we went, say, for example, something like Wednesday the 8th, does that work for people?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Can we call that a date then? And then it's in the diary. Perfect. Well then, if there is no other business, we're going to call that a job well done. Thank you everybody for coming this evening, for your contributions to the conversation. And Ned, I'm guessing there'll be updates coming out from you for things that relate to both Safer Streets and the Neighbourhood Plan as we go through. I will put you in touch with Debbie so you can liaise with her on the use of All Saints. And we will see you all at various things in the weeks to come.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.